Hey guys, welcome to my channel, Brainbloke here again, and today I'm just going to give you a recipe on how to make red velvet cake. So first of all, here's the ingredients you will need. You will need 2 cups of plain flour, which is the same as 250 grams of plain flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, which is basically bicarbonate of soda, 1 teaspoon of baking powder. You will also need 1 teaspoon of salt. You will need 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder. You will also need 400 grams of sugar, and that can be either caster sugar or granulated sugar, so don't worry about which one you have right now. You will also need 1 cup of vegetable oil or canola, and here I've got a massive bottle which I'll measure soon. 2 eggs. Ideally you want them to be medium to large size, you don't want the teeny weeny ones. You also want some buttermilk, which this was from Asda. You will also need some vanilla extract, but I don't have that on me here. Some red food colouring, half a cup of hot plain coffee, which I have in this mug here, and 1 teaspoon of white distilled vinegar, but I've got distilled malt vinegar here, so don't worry about the variety here. I'll have all the recipe and the ingredients in the description below, so please check it out, like and subscribe. And here we go. So your first step to make a beautiful red velvet cake is to preheat your oven. If you've the settings are, it's gas mark 2 or it's 325 degrees Fahrenheit. We also have to grease and line a tin. So I've got a big square pan here, or you can use 2 of these smaller 9-inch cake pans. So it's either one or, but I prefer using this. So I've lined the bottom of this tin with this vegetable oil I showed you earlier. Then I basically roughly tore some greaseproof paper. I've put the creases and stuck them in the tin itself, and then I've also put some vegetable oil on top of the greaseproof paper itself as well. So I find that's a fail-proof way of getting cakes out without a hassle after they've been baked, so that's a good idea. So first of all, we are going to measure our 250 grams of plain flour, and I'm using this home pride version here. Apparently it's a 1 kg, this is standard size, and it's sieved already, so it saves a bit of time if you can get your hands on this too, if you want. So that's 250 grams of plain flour coming up. I'm using an old school scale here, and it works as treat. So if you've got one lying around, you don't get rid of it for an electronic one, because it works very, as efficiently as those ones, so don't worry about that. And that's already sieved. I will now get 1 teaspoon of baking powder and 1 teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda in here, and these need to be sieved in the bowl. So I'm just going to roughly measure a teaspoon. I'd say that's about a teaspoon of baking powder here. And if it's lumpy in the sieve, just use your forefinger to get the lumps through the sieve itself. That's cool. Yep, that's good now. I will now add 1 teaspoon of salt to the mix. That's about a teaspoon, I'd say. There we are. Now, even though on the recipe list it says set aside this bowl, and because we were meant to have two separate bowls, one for the wet ingredients, one for the dry ingredients, but I've chosen to do it all in one bowl, so it's for the sake of convenience. So now we're just going to measure some 400 grams of sugar now, but again, like I'm the only one in my family who has a sweet tooth, so I have to cater for my family and reduce the sugar, so I'm going to probably do about 340 grams of sugar instead of the full 400 grams. But if you guys love your sweet treats, go for the full 400 grams. Now it asks us to add 1 cup of oil, and this is the cup I use, and it measures about 225 milliliters. So it's not exactly a mug, it's just like a small sized cup, stroke, mug perhaps, because it's got this handle. But it's not those standard big mugs. So I'm just gonna get 1 cup of oil in here. If you feel that the oil's dripping on the side of the mug, just rub it against the bowl and to get all the drops in, so you don't have a mess later on. Now we will also add the 2 eggs. Okay, so 1 and a second one here. Sometimes they don't even crack. Okay, I'm going to use the glass. There we are. It also now asks us to add the red food colouring and the buttermilk. And for the buttermilk you need 1 cup of buttermilk. Ooh. So I'm just going to use the same mug I used to measure my oil and add the buttermilk inside our mixture. There we are. Now we're just going to mix all this up. I'd lift it up now to show you how the bowl looks, but I fear all the oil and eggs will just drip everywhere, so I'll do it after I've mixed it up. So just start off mixing slowly, and I'm just using a tablespoon. It's quite a thick tablespoon that doesn't bend. You can also use a wooden spoon or an electric whisk at this point. But if you are using an electric whisk, be mindful that there's a lot of liquid, so start on the lowest setting until the mixture in the bowl turns a bit more thicker, which means you can increase your speed without it splashing everywhere. So I'm just doing the same here, just folding the mixture in using my tablespoon. Now that I feel it's not going to drip, I'm just going to stir it faster. It's a good arm workout if you do it manually. I tend to do all my cake mixtures manually, even though I do have more than one electric whisk. I just feel it gives you a workout. I think I'm going to add a bit more sugar because we're going to add some black hot coffee to it. Half a little glass, so I don't want it to be too sour. So I've just added a bit more sugar to that. And bear in mind, this was around 340 grams of sugar. So I've probably added about 15 to 20 more grams now, so 360. So it's still not the full amount the recipe asks, which is 400 grams of sugar. But if you wish to add that much, that is completely fine too. So now it's asking us to get our coffee, and so I've got about half a cup of plain hot coffee here, and bear in mind it's got no milk in, so it's just black coffee. And to the coffee I'm just going to add, let's see what it says here, 1 teaspoon of white distilled vinegar. So this is brand new, so I'm going to open the seal. Let's see. Okay, this is odd. Oh, it's got that nozzle thing on the top that I have to pull out. Didn't even notice that. Boy. Okay, that's enough. Just going to add a bit of, so about a teaspoon it says to add a teaspoon, so I've added a touch more, but that should be okay. So now I'm just going to add the coffee to my mixture and stir slowly. Bear in mind, yeah, it's quite hot coffee, so just start off stirring really slowly, and then you can pick up the pace once the coffee is actually not on the surface anymore. So once the mixture's absorbed all the coffee, then you can start mixing faster. But right now I'm just going to make it slow. Oh, it's very runny, so but don't worry about the mixture being very runny and thin, because that's how the mixture is supposed to be. Now I'm just going to add the food colouring and the baking powder. Not the baking, the cocoa powder rather. This is like the cheapest branded version from Asda, and I think it was for £1.35. And we got to sieve this in the mixture too. So about 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder will do well. And this should give it that texture, that soft moisture texture that you find in red velvet cakes. So I believe, is that enough? Yeah, I'd say that's about 2 tablespoons, so I'm not adding that. I'm going to add tons of more. So I'm just going to fold that in now. And the thing about one bowl sort of cake mixtures is that there's way less washing up to do. So right now I've just used my scale top, which is dry, so I'll just probably have to rinse it in water, not even liquid wash it. And I've used a bowl, I've used a sieve, I've used this little mug. So 2 mugs, a sieve, and essentially a bowl and a spoon. And that's all the washing up I'll have to do. And I don't have to worry about the cake tin too, because I've grease-proofed papered it, if that's a thing. So yeah, so even the tin will come out clean after the cake's made. So I've got very minimal washing up, and that's how I like, that's my ethos I guess, when I bake. have as much less of a mess as possible. So now that I've added the cocoa powder, it's turned everything dark brown, as you would expect, of course. And after I've folded this in, or rather mixed it in, I will add the red food colouring. And that is the last ingredients that I have to add, and then we should be good to go in the oven. So now that's done. I'm just going to add the red food. Again, this was from Asda and it's the cheapest version. It's not a gel, you can use a gel. This is just a red natural food colouring. So I'm just going to add, I've added quite a bit because I want it a deep red colour. So now I'm going to mix it in to see how red of a colour I will get. But you might not immediately be able to tell the difference here because the cocoa powder has such a deep, rich colour that you might not be able to see any red in here. But you will see the red after the cake is baked. So don't worry about the batter not changing colour at this stage. I'm going to add a bit more. And that's it, I'm done now. So I'd say I added about 2 to 3 teaspoons of red food colouring. 3 teaspoons I'd say. And the mixture right now is really runny. Look, like you can pour it basically. That's how runny it is. So, and again, don't worry about it being runny. It should be all fine. So I'll just show you a close-up of the mixture now. There we are. I'm just not sure you can tell. There we are. It's very runny, so again, don't worry about it. Now I'm just going to pour it all into my bowl and get everything nice and neat. And there we are. And spoon off the rest, and if you love your batter and you want to taste it at this stage, it's a good time to taste it after, to wipe the bowl clean. I'm just going to taste a bit. Yeah, that's nice. And taste the coffee too in the background, and it offsets the sugary taste, so it's a great balance you've got here. So now that I've got the cake tin done, I'm just going to put it in the oven for around 30 to 40 minutes and then it should be done. I'll also be turning it after about 20 to 25 minutes. I'll be turning it to its opposite side in the oven, and so it bakes evenly. So that's your red velvet cake, guys. That's how you make it, and I hope you have great luck, and I hope it turns out really well for you, because for me, I know it's going to work because I've tried it before. I'll also leave pictures at the end of this video, so please like, please subscribe, leave a comment and let me know how your cakes turned out. So thank you for watching and take care for now. Bye.